3, 4.
Put on your face, know your place, shut up and smile, don't spread your legs. Ooh, I could do that, but no one knows me, no one ever will. If I don't say something, if I just lie still, would I be a monster, scare them all away? If I let them hear what I have to say, I can't keep quiet. No, no, I can't keep quiet. No, 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 one woman riot. No, I can't keep quiet for anyone. No, not anymore, 'cause no one knows me, no one ever will. If I don't say something, take that dry blue pill, they may see a monster, they may run away, but I have to do this. I can't keep quiet. No, I can't keep quiet. No, one woman riot. No, oh, I can't keep quiet. There'll be someone who understands. Let it out, let it out, let it out now. Must be someone who understands. Let it out, let it out, let it out now. There'll be someone who understands. Let it out, let it out, let it out now. I can't keep quiet. Oh, I can't keep quiet. I can't keep quiet. No, no, I won't keep quiet.
Welcome. Good morning. And welcome to live stream worship with First Unitarian Church of Hobart, Indiana. I am Maggie Reister, and I participate in the church community by leading the worship ministry and sometimes singing in the virtual choir. Welcome. We are a theologically diverse community of Unitarian Universalists. Together, we grow spiritually, build community, and live our values in the world. Many thanks to our technical crew, James Johnson, John Halstead, and Valerie Lambert, for making the magic here possible. You at home will be able to share comments, appreciation, and significant milestones in your lives during the service, just by typing a message. This way, we will all have a chance to greet our neighbor, share joys and sorrows, and you can generously share your offering via PayPal. And of course, you can mail a check directly to the First Unitarian Church. By the way, the link to PayPal is located in the video description on your screen. Thank you, John, for moderating this process today. Let your Facebook and Twitter friends know that you are attending worship with #FirstUnitarianHobart. Now, let's all take a deep breath and join together in a spirit of reverence. Please join me in the chalice lighting. This is not our traditional chalice lighting. This is The Hour by Connie Simon. This is the hour. The time has come. Mindful of our responsibilities as leaders of this faith and guardians of the living tradition, we call upon that great cloud of witnesses, those who came before, those who are here now, and those who have yet to come. We seek their presence, love, and support in this place at this hour. We kindle this flame to light their path and call them near as we undertake this sacred work. The opening words are by Jason Cook. The great teachers in life. We seekers are on a quest to discover truth and meaning. Sometimes we think we've found it, wrapped up, glimmering with newness, straight off the intellectual assembly line, all the answers right here for us and others. If they'd only listen. But truth has a way of coming in disguise, sometimes wearing rags and sometimes finery, but so often cloaked from our immediate sight. And sometimes that which we have rejected, that which we have let go of or decided was only for others, but not us, can be our teacher. Let our time of worship be an acknowledgement of the never-ending journey toward truth and meaning, and our appreciation of those we learn from along the way. Please join me in singing opening hymn number 157, Step by Step, the Longest March.
Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union, what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none.
Please join me in the affirmation of faith. The words are on your screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. And this is our covenant. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. You will now be unmuted for a few seconds so that we can all say a collective good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
morning, everyone.
Good
Hello.
morning.
My first time here. I'm glad I'm here.
Oh, welcome. So glad.
It's
Good
our
morning,
bro.
everyone.
Yeah, nice. And
From all who dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every heart and every tongue. Amen.
well, unable to gather in person, this congregation expresses our greatest joys and deepest sorrows in new ways. We pause, listening to what arises from within our hearts. Please type in the chat box any joys or concerns that you would like to share. Please keep in mind that while your joys and concerns are not made public and not recorded on Zoom, if you are viewing the service on Facebook or YouTube, these posts will be public for others to view.
We honor the joys and sorrows we choose to share, along with those too tender that they remain unspoken but within our hearts. Thank you for sharing. And now I would like to read the story for all ages. We have, is that backwards to everybody? Lillian's Right to Vote. It's a story about the Voting Rights Act of 1965. A very old woman stands at the bottom of a very steep hill. It's voting day. She's an American, and by God, she is going to vote. Lillian is her name. It's a long haul up that steep hill. It's a long haul when you've been alive for 100 years. It's a long haul when you've lived the life that Lillian has and walked so far in her shoes. When Lillian looks up, it's more than blue sky she sees. She sees history. Lillian sees her great-great-grandparents, Elijah and Sarah, standing side by side on an auction block. Sarah is holding their baby, Edmund. They are being sold as slaves in front of the very same Alabama courthouse where rich white men and no one else are allowed to vote. As Lillian inches up the hill, past one neighbor's house and then the next, she sees her great-grandpa Edmund on his way to vote for the first time, thanks to a law that was passed in 1870. The law is the 15th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which says that American citizens' right to vote shall not be denied or abridged on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Even though the law does not allow women to vote, great-grandma Ida is with her husband. Lillian feels their dignity and their pride as they enter that courthouse for the first time. But as Lillian continues and the hill gets steeper, oh, that hill is steep, she sees what happens just 20 years later, right here in Alabama. There's her grandpa Isaac at the courthouse, being charged a poll tax to vote. A tax he doesn't have the money to pay. So much for that 15th Amendment, so much for Grandpa Isaac's right to vote. Lillian pauses to catch her breath, hearing now the voice of her Uncle Levi. He is telling about those tests that he was forced to take when he tried to vote, and about the sneer on the registrar's face when he asked how many bubbles are in a bar of soap. Her uncle's lips go tight as he recalls being asked to name all 67 judges in the state of Alabama and being turned away when he failed to answer such questions. As Lillian pushes on, struggling to keep her balance, she sees a brave girl standing next to her mother and father as they try to register to vote. The year is 1920, and the 19th Amendment has just passed, a law allowing women to vote. The girl is Lillian herself with her mama and papa. They are being chased away by an angry mob. She feels the firm grip of her mother's hand as they run through the streets back home. Lillian stops in her tracks, unable to keep going. As she stands there, she sees herself trying to register to vote for the very first time. She sees the blank piece of paper on which she must write down a section of the U.S. Constitution, word for word, as it is being mumbled by the registrar. A test she could not pass. No one could. "Are you going to vote?" she asks a young man who passes her on her route. "Yes, ma'am," he answers. "You better," she says, and means it. For Lillian sees the funeral procession for a man named Jimmy Lee Jackson, a 26-year-old shot by a policeman over nothing more than taking part in a peaceful protest. It is March 1965. All he wanted was justice and the right to vote. Though her legs and feet ache with 100 years of walking, what fuels her ancient body is seeing those 600 people beginning a peaceful protest march from Selma to Montgomery. All they want is justice and the right to vote. At the front is future Congressman John Lewis, whose head will always bear the scar from where he was beaten. She can hear the voice of President Lyndon Johnson on her TV saying to America, "Every citizen must have an equal right to vote. There is no duty which weighs more heavily on us than the duty we have to ensure that right. All of us must overcome the crippling legacy of bigotry and injustice, and we shall overcome." Before Lillian walks through the doors of the building, where you better believe she will vote, she looks up and sees the same blue sky, brighter than any sky she's ever seen, that she saw on August 6, 1965. That was the day President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, the one law protecting all Americans' right to vote in every state and every town, the one law protecting Lillian as a full-fledged citizen of the United States. She enters the building, and as Lillian steps into the voting booth, once again, she sees herself stepping into the voting booth in 1965 for the very first time. And she knows full well she would not be standing here today were it not for the people who marched and the people who died for her right to vote. Lillian touches her finger to the lever, and because she is a citizen of the United States of America, protected by the Voting Rights Act of 1965, Lillian pushes that lever. She votes. Good picture. But that in 1913, the Supreme Court struck down a key provision of that Voting Rights Act, eliminating federal oversight. And many states have created voter ID laws that are punitive and whatever. So thank you. Please join all of us in singing We Are Dancing Sarah's Circle. It's in the script. Thank you.
We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's circle. We are dancing Sarah's circle. Sisters, brothers, all. Here we seek and find our history. Here we seek and find our history. Here we seek and find our history. Sisters, brothers, all. We will all do our own amen. We will all do our own amen. We will all do our own amen. Sisters, brothers, all. Every round of generation, every round of generation, every round of generation, sisters, brothers, all. On and on the circles moving, on and the circles moving, on and on the circles moving, sisters, brothers, all.
Thank you, Jeremy. And Beth, what a wonderful story. I'd love to read it again. That was a great story. Now, Let's get in a comfortable position. Just whatever works for you, with your feet on the ground. Close your eyes if you like. Our prayer is a Franciscan blessing on the wisdom of discomfort and hard-won knowledge. Creative source of all being, bless us with discomfort. At easy answers, hard hearts, half-truths, and superficial relationships. Bless us so that we may live from deep within your heart where spirit dwells. Eternal One, bless us with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people. Goddess of truth, bless us so that we may work for justice, freedom, and peace. God of Israel's past, bless us with tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, and war. May all holiness bless us so that we may reach out our hand to comfort them and turn their pain into joy. And may we be blessed with enough foolishness to believe that we can make a difference in this world, in our neighborhood, so that we will courageously try what we don't think we can do. But together, in love, we'll have all the strength necessary. May we fearlessly speak out about injustice, unjust laws, corrupt politicians, unjust and cruel treatment of prisoners and senseless war, genocide, starvation, and poverty that is so pervasive. May we remember we are all called to continue the redemptive work of love and healing in the spirit of earth and air, height and depth, continually creating and breathing new life and grace into everything and everyone we touch. Amen, and blessed be. I am wearing white today in honor of our foremothers, the suffragettes, and workers for justice and equality that went before us. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. Harriet Tubman. And any great change must expect opposition because it shakes the very foundation of privilege. Lucretia Mott. On January 21st, 2017, I woke up too early, uncomfortable, sitting up in a bus. We had been riding all night from Portage, Indiana, on our way to Washington, D.C. We would stop for breakfast soon and be given a new plan for the day. Buses were motoring to the nation's capital by the thousands. When we arrived, I put my subway ticket away and hit the pavement. There was no use heading for the overloaded train station. We walked to the staging area for the Women's March, 3 miles away. 500,000 showed up that day. 5 million around the world. Somehow I managed to hang on to my bus seatmates, and finally, after the amazing march down Pennsylvania Avenue, we turned around. We had a bus to catch. What I saw was a sea of marchers behind me, waves of women and men, all colors, united in this moment in history. But this wasn't just a moment. It was much more. It was one more step on the long march for justice. As I walk, I can almost hear abolitionists like Lydia Marie Childs, Sarah Grimke, and Harriet Thornton Purvis in 1833, who were criticized and threatened for promiscuously speaking in public on the equality of the sexes and the races. I can picture Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton as they are turned away from the 1840 World Anti-Slavery Convention. I can hear the cheers when the Declaration of Sentiments is passed in 1848 at Seneca Falls. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. One more step. I can feel the determination of the Women's Christian Temperance Union to end the abuse of drunken husbands. They join the suffrage movement, and the liquor industry lobbies against it. I can see the women marching, women who fought long and hard for women's suffrage and the abolition of slavery were outraged when the 15th Amendment grants the right to vote to Black men. White women, including Susan B. Anthony, feel that they deserve the right to vote first. But they don't give up. In 1878, the Women's Suffrage Amendment is introduced for the first time. I feel such gratitude for the suffragettes of the 19th century, Black women, Hispanic women, Chinese women, Native American women. We don't read about them, but they are all here, though often excluded or pushed to the back of the parade. I keep walking. It is 1912, the day before Woodrow Wilson's inauguration. 5,000 women are here for the women's suffrage parade. The crowd suddenly breaks through steel cables and spills into the street. Men, many of them drunk, spit at us and grab our clothing. They hurl insults, light cigarettes, snatch banners, and try to climb on our floats. The police laugh at us while we are beaten, and banners are torn from our hands. Banners painstakingly hand-sewn. The women's hour has struck. Votes for women. We sell suffrage fund coffee, cookbooks, dolls, greeting cards, and other suffrage swag. The Women's Political Union holds a Votes for Women ball and an inclusive event, including both wage earners and society women. Early motion pictures depict suffragettes as pathetic spinsters or aggressive shrews who browbeat their husbands and ignore their children. So we are making our own movies, like Your Girl and Mine. The march continues. 10,000 marchers, 20,000 marchers, 40,000 marching for economic, social, and political equality. On March 3rd, 1913, 100 marchers are taken to the local emergency hospital, and the chief of police requests a troop of the cavalry to help control the crowds. Sound familiar? President Wilson, how long do you expect us to wait? We are arrested for unladylike practice of picketing the White House. We go on a hunger strike and are subjected to brutal treatment. but we are reminded, not can ye win, but by faith and daring. I walk back to my bus. I can claim my place in history this day. 5 million of us took another step in the longest march. This wild experiment in democracy of the people, by the people, and for the people is a work in progress. The notion that all people have rights, inherent worth, and dignity belongs to each of us. It is the recognition that the disenfranchised are not other, they are us. We are all one. Not can ye win, but by faith and daring. Take one more step with me. Together, we are building the promised land of the free.
During the history of voting rights in the US, it's worth noting that not only did we begin by allowing wealthy white male property owners to vote, but another similar safeguard was put into place at the time, the Electoral College. This was created to ensure that the common voter could be overruled if necessary. The Electoral College has selected a president against the popular vote 5 times in our history. The first 3 were between 150 and 200 years ago. John Quincy Adams in 824 over Andrew Jackson, Rutherford B. Hayes in 1876 over Samuel Tilden, and Benjamin Harrison in 1888 over Grover Cleveland. Most recently, I'm sure you all are aware of George Bush being selected over Al Gore in 2000 and Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton in 2016. As voting rights have been granted over the years, not only to women, but other disenfranchised groups, we've seen various ways enacted to curtail allowing said people to vote, including Jim Crow laws, poll tax and voting tests, gerrymandering, requiring some IDs and rejecting others, such as a college student ID, making those with felony convictions ineligible, purging voter rolls, reducing hours and locations for voting places. In each of these cases, we have fought back against these limits on the freedom to vote, just as we're fighting now against the effort to limit voting by mail. It seems difficult for young people today to realize that their great or great-great-grandmothers likely lived during a time when women could not vote. The fact that this is unfathomable, though, would be wonderful news to our foremothers who marched and protested and were jailed and beaten for the women's vote a century ago. Likewise, those suffragists would consider having a Black woman as a vice presidential candidate of a major party to be unthinkable. We're even making strides on the Electoral College. Many would prefer to see it abolished altogether, and it may yet be. Last month, the Supreme Court ruled that Electoral College voters can be forced to back the candidate who wins the state popular vote. While most do follow their state's popular vote, only some states require this. So the wording from the Supreme Court, they can be forced. It still depends on whether or not the state will force them. But it is a step in the right direction. This shows us what an involved, active citizenry can do to improve voting rights. So what can you do to help us continue on this path of progress? Volunteer to call people and remind them to vote. Vote at all or on behalf of your preferred candidate. Volunteer to call people and ask them to contribute to your favorite candidate's campaign. Donate to the campaign yourself. Use your social media accounts to remind friends, both local and nationally, to vote. And join and support organizations committed to voter registration and education, such as the League of Women Voters. This year, you may have read that there's a drastic shortage of poll workers. If you feel that you are in a position to safely volunteer at the polls, there will still be people who show up to vote, and poll workers are desperately needed. Overall, though, voting is so important. Vote yourself. The ratification of the 19th Amendment came down to a single vote. Without that one final vote in favor of women's suffrage, it's difficult to know when women might have gotten to vote in our history. So make sure that your vote is counted this November.
It is my honor to be here today for the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment granting women to vote in the USA. Let me share my screen with you. This is me 14 years ago in August 2006, my first day in this beautiful country, walking in the steps of all women who has opened the path for me to be able to come here with 2 luggages and form a new life as an immigrant woman. And guess what? This month, I became an associate professor of psychology. This is my story of finding my voice, just like many other women, and helping others to find their voice as well. My story is another unique chapter in the journey of women moving from surviving to thriving. For me, walking the walk in this path is speaking my truth. It is my responsibility to all the previous courageous women to continue working and creating a space where all human beings are treated with fairness, justice, and equality. As women, we have been expected to stay small and not speak up. Coming from a country where patriarchy is even more prevalent than here, I can personally attest to the importance of continuing to promote women's rights, racial equality, and rights of any marginalized groups. I believe that taking action in promoting these values is one of the ways to honor the women who has suffered for us to have the privileges that we have today. I am celebrating my 5th year as a citizen this year. On this special day today, celebrating Women's Equality Day, I'm reflecting on the trailblazers and suffragists. This is me 4 years ago on the way to vote for my first elections as a citizen. My heart was filled with gratitude, giving special thanks to all women and suffragists for giving this privilege to me. I wanted to pay tribute to them and their fight for women's rights by wearing white. I mean, why not be fashionable and fight for our rights at the same time, right? Just like brilliant Maya Angelou said, my mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Let's continue honoring these trailblazers in our own lives and in our own societies. I'm going to leave you with this question to ponder upon then. How can I be a trailblazer in my own life? Thank you. While the music plays, you're invited to make a monetary offering. The offering will be posted in the chat box. You can make an offering anytime after the service as well. If the chat box is not visible to you, click chat at the bottom of your computer screen, or if you're on a phone, click participants, then chat. Please join me in singing the closing hymn, number 168, One More Step.
One more step, we will take one more step till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
The closing words are by Emma Goldman. Someday, men and women will rise. They will reach the mountain peak. They will meet big and strong and free, ready to receive, to partake, and to bask in the golden rays of love. What fancy, what imagination, what poetic genius can foresee the potentials of such a force in the life of men and women? Please join me in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace and wellness. Now, you may join us for virtual coffee hour in the same Zoom channel. We will start in just a few minutes.
Actually, I think we're open now.